Hi, this is Dr. John Grazel, and this clip on our series on development, post-conflict reconstruction, and peace focuses on a very, very quick synopsis of what I call participatory techniques. The course is not a practitioner's course, it's an insight course, but because real participation is something that is so important to successful development, what I try to give the students is a very quick core understanding of participatory techniques and references where to learn now about them. Now, there are many different participatory techniques, and you really have to be trained for them. You have to read up on them. You have to practice on them, and the techniques themselves can take anywhere from a couple of hours to a couple of days at least. So it's not something you can just quickly fill in on a cheat sheet in a few minutes. But here are some of the most well-known ones, and what are, first of all, what's called Rapid Rural Appraisal. That's one of the earliest, and that basically was where teams of people went around within a fairly short period of time to gather as much information as possible. What made it participatory was not so much that they went around and talked to people, which was an element of the participation, but not its greatest strength, because when strangers show up in large numbers, people necessarily are not the most open in talking about the truth behind their lives. But the idea of putting together teams of different people who participated as a team in extracting information and analyzing it rather than an individual expert. Another very well known one is called PRA, Participatory Rural Appraisal. And this is a technology where people actually went in and did gather communities, and generally by using mapping, by creating community maps and having people put down on the map everything from where people live to what they do, to what's their environment, to what are their needs. You got a presentation where the people themselves synthesize things, and in the process of doing it, they themselves discover connectivities and express out connectivities that you don't get just by interviewing people one-on-one. One of the most presently fashionable and favorite ones is called Appreciative Inquiry, and that goes a little bit beyond people's participating and providing information and insight. It tries to get people themselves to get together to appreciate each other. It's very interesting because we talk about very often not having the participation of the community, but within communities, people don't encourage participation. Appreciative Inquiry goes into a community and asks people to really begin to appreciate what every member of the community and the different institutions of the community can contribute to solving community problems. And it's through not only the discovery of what exists, but the expression of appreciation that you get motivation. And this is very important because our developer perspective is the importance of empathy, the importance of emotion, as well as the importance of understanding. And appreciative inquiry begins to get basically into the motivation aspect of development. Another technology which I particularly like is called the Technology of Participation, or TOPS, TOPS. And TOPS is a facilitatory technology that really brings people together and tries to ensure that people systematically look at their circumstances, look at what their situation is, look at their resources, look at their challenges, match their challenges to their resources, and come out then with real proposals for what they can do, and ultimately has ways of getting them to actually agree on which ones they want to do when and by whom. And it's a very powerful technology that was used in projects that I worked in, particularly in the Philippines, a project called Local Government Development Project, and was very powerful in getting people to work together. And then there's one that I'm actually working on, which I call Community-Focused Principle-Based Development. And in this one, what I try to really do is say, on a community basis, people have to get together, and before they actually discuss more specific interventions have to clarify what are their expectations, their desires, and their basis of commitment based on principles. They have to ask themselves, do we as a community share any foundational principles, bottom lines, against which we're really able as a group to measure ourselves and to guide ourselves? If not, should we have them? And if we should, what should they be? And would we be able and willing to establish some now before we proceed into the nitty-gritty of actually trying to do hands-on things? So it tries to get people to recognize, like appreciative inquiry, what exists in terms of foundational principles, but it also tries to get them to actually maybe think about what they want to creatively establish the way technology of participation does. But regardless of any one of these, they have a common core, and that's what I want people to understand. Basically, they get people to actually express themselves out. They get people, hopefully, to become very frank and honest and feel a comfort and safety in expressing themselves out. They also then get people to listen to each other and to synthesize together understandings. Then they try to turn those understandings into actual proposals for action. And then the last step is getting people's true commitment, because if you don't have the emotional commitment, they really won't act, and then all the rest is theory. So it's that expression out of truth in an environment of safety, and then a joint effort in analysis and synthesis that then is turned into realistic proposals for action, and then commitment on the part of individuals that really makes these processes what they are. And then I suggest to people that if you can't remember or you haven't yet mastered any of them, what you can always fall back upon are the four most fundamental questions in life that come out of Buddhism, which is basically, who are we, where do we come from, why are we here, and where are we going? And the way you can use those, I suggest to them, is when you say, who are we, rather than am I, who are we, you're really asking for, let's get a grip on basically what's our background, what are we right now, what makes us what we are, what preoccupies us. That sends the environmental aspect, context. When you ask the question, where do we come from, then you're really saying, not where do we come from geographically, but in the vernacular slang, hey man, where are you coming from? What are our aspirations? What are our hopes? What are our prejudices? Or mildly speaking, preconceived notions? What are our desires? Where are we coming from? Let's be honest about that. Then, after you've asked, who are we? Background information. Where do we come from? What's our aspirations, our prejudice? You ask the third question, why are we here? And that basically has two parts. Why are we here in terms of what's our objective? What do we think we need to accomplish? And also, why are we here in terms of what we have to contribute, our capacities and our resources? So it has two aspects. Why are we here? Because we feel we need something and we have an objective. And why are we here? Because we feel we can contribute or give something in terms of capacity and resources. And then the fourth question is, where are we going? And this is the trickiest and most important, because the first, where are we going, generates your options for action. What are the possibilities? And to do that properly, what you have to do is you have to take that insights into your capacities and resources and match them against your needs. It's the matching the resources to the needs that really tell you what are the possible options. Then the second thing you have to do is you have to actually get commitment. What are people committed to do? Now you can ask them, you can ask them to vote, you can ask them to pledge, but you have to get people to be honest about the extent to which they are committed, because without true commitment, it isn't even worth investing in the process.